Okay, I'm going to show you how to make this bag here. And you can put, because I made it kind of long, you can put things like a water bottle in here. And because I made it out of 100% wool, it's insulative, so the water would stay colder. And I do find that that works because I use a wool cover on my water mug that does really good. And so I'm going to show you how to go about doing this. Yes, there's probably simpler patterns out there that you can do to make this, but I always like teaching small projects new techniques. So I'm going to teach you how to do this all in one piece. This is not separate pieces or anything. All of it is in one piece. The straps are in one piece. The only thing that is in one piece is the drawstring itself. But everything else, the holes, the flap, the straps, they're all in one piece. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to go about doing this. And I'm going to explain to you how to be able to do it on any loom that you want. Now, you can do this through E-Rep, you can do it in flat knit, you can do purl, you can do fancy stitch work if you want, but you find the loom that you want. Okay, and I'm going to use a 48 3/8. And it's the one I used for this, but I'm going to do something a little different, and I'm going to E-Wrap it instead of flat knit it. Okay. Now, you have two options with your cast on. You can do a crochet cast on or chain cast on, or you can do a Kitchener cast on. If you're doing a flat knit, do the Kitchener cast on. If you are doing an E-Wrap like I'm going to be doing, then you'll want to do a chain cast on so that when you sew up the bottom it's nice and smooth. So what you want to do is whatever loom you have, you want to divide it in half, and then you want to divide it in by 3, okay? And that's going to tell you how much you're going to decrease on each side. Because the first thing you're doing is starting the bottom here. And as you can see, when I spread it out, there is my Kitchener cast on, and then it looks like a perfect kind of circle, right? Well, you're doing a short row on one half and the next half, and you don't increase. You just decrease down and work your way over to the other half. Decrease down and then work your way over to the starting point and knit yourself all the way around. Then you start on the straps. So we're going to be starting off with the very bottom, which gives you shape. Now, you've probably seen me do one of these little bags before, but in that video I did a square bottom. This one we're going to do a round bottom. And in fact, if you want, you could do it in a different color with the round bottom. But on this one, we're going to start off doing a chain or crochet cast on, as I've heard it called. Okay, and it gives you an easy sew up visual. Alright, so we did our slip knot, pull that behind the first peg, then slip your fingers through there and pull the working yarn through the hole, and then you'll want to tighten that up, your slip. Alright, then you're going to take this around to the back of the peg and pull the working yarn through and snug it up. Back around and snug it up. Back behind, pull the working yarn through the hole, snug it up. And you're going to do this all the way around. Alright, so let's see if we can't move this along. Okay, we're to our last one. You're going to take that loop and just place it onto your starter peg. Okay. Now, what you want to do, and if you were Kitchener-ing in, you would start on this half and wind your way. And so I have, a tutorial on how to do the Kitchener. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide our 48 peg loom in half, which is 24, and then we're going to divide 24 by 3, and that is 6. All right. Yeah, 6. I'm pretty sure. All right. Wait a second. It's practically 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, so we're going to divide 24 by 3, which is 8. So you're going to have 8 wrap and turns, 8 wrap and turns with 8 single. All right, sorry, my math is all over the place. All right, so we're going to E-wrap that first stitch, toss the bottom loops over, and we're just going to E-wrap our way around to peg to just before our halfway mark. All right, so we're going to E-wrap over to say peg 23. But again, you want to do this on another loom. Divide your pegs in half and then divide that number by 3, and you will get where your decrease numbers are too. Now if you get a 0.5 or higher, then you need to round up as your wrap and turn pegs on the ends. If it's a 0.4 or lower, then you round down, which means your center will vary. All right. We're at peg 23. All right. Now, if you've watched my recent video on the 7 methods of how to do short rowing, you should really take a look at it and find the method you prefer. I generally go to a wrap and turn. It's fast. It works up pretty quickly. But there's 7 different methods of being able to go in and do a decrease on a short area like this, okay? Mine is going to be a wrap and turn where I wrap the working yarn around the back of the peg into the front and then move on to the next peg and E-wrap my way over. Okay. Okay, we've reached our halfway mark. We're going to wrap and turn, so I'm going to wrap behind and to the front. Now, if you watch that video, you can do whatever decreasing method you want. But I'm going to do it my usual way. Then you're going to E-wrap to just before the last wrap and turn so that you can wrap and turn it down. Now, I'm going to show you what you need to do with this half. With the wrap and turns, I'm going to tell you what you need to get down to. If you're following me exact, you're wanting 8 wraps and turns on each side with 8 single stitches in the middle. If you're doing another thing, work your math up into your divided 3 and go from there. Now, what I'm going to tell you to do is once I show you what I'm talking about with the wrap and turn, I'm going to tell you to pause the video and complete your wrap and turn down to your single stitches of 8 in the middle between your wrap and turn pegs. Alright, here we go. Stop there. Notice your last wrap and turn is right there. So you're going to wrap and turn and start E-wrapping back. So go ahead and pause the video and complete your wrap and turn rows down to 8 wrap and turns, 8 single stitches, 8 wrap and turns, or whatever your math is. So go ahead and pause the video and get that much done, and then we will go on and I will show you how to get to the other half to do the same thing. Okay, we've done our half, as you can see. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wraps and turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 singles. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wraps and turns. But now we need to do this very same thing on the other half. Well, how do we do that? We are going to E-wrap 2 together. And if you'd like, you may want to place a stitch marker on this peg right here. And that is, you can see the other half. That's the point where your wrap and turn should be. So basically at this point, now you want to repeat what we just did over here, over here. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to E-wrap to just before the last peg, okay? Then you're going to wrap and turn. Okay, so you wrap and turn that last peg, and then you're going to work your way back and stop just before the halfway point on the other side, okay? So that should be like, what, 22, I think? So you're going to E-wrap 22 and then wrap and turn. Okay, and then we're going to wrap and turn. And then we're going to start working our way to exactly like we did over here. So you're going to repeat the same thing that we did over here, right over here. Alright, so pause the video, complete the other half, and then I'll show you how to continue from there, and then we'll need to move on to doing the straps here. Because the straps are worked from bottom, and then we're going to put those stitches on the stitch holder and wait until we get to the top. Alright, so go ahead and finish the other half, and then I'll show you how to complete the bottom section. Alright, so pause the video, get that much done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we have 2 halves done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wrap and turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 single. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wrap and turn. At this point, you'll want to E-wrap 2 together until you get to your starting point, alright? Or knit, or whatever. You can purl, you can knit, you're just getting everything back to a single stitch. Alright. When we get back to our starting point, that completes the row, and that's how it's going to look written up. Alright. There. Alright. At this point, what you want to do is you want to E-wrap all the way around, and if there's 2 stitches, make sure it's 1. Alright, so your first 8 pegs are going to be knit, E-wrap or knit 2 together. Alright, then you're going to E-wrap 16. So you E-wrap your 16. And then you E-wrap 2 together 8 times. And then E-wrap 16. And then at this point, we'll want to work on our shoulder straps. And I will tell you how to do the math on that one. Okay. Now we're back to square one. Now you will notice that you have chains on the bottom half here where your chain is, and you'll know that that's going to make it easier to actually sew up the bottom. Now at this point we need to figure out our shoulder straps. Alright, and on here I chose to do a seed stitch, but you can do a garter stitch, you can do a knit stitch if you want. Just know it's going to be more cord-like than flat and smooth. If you want it flat and smooth, do a seed stitch or a garter stitch. If you want it to kind of curl around, then you can do just a straight out knit stitch. And because I didn't want the excessive stretch, I kind of wanted it to be just as is as much as possible, I end up usually doing a seed stitch. But the idea is you divided it by 3, and what you have is 8 and 8 and 8. And I like my 8 in between. So what I want to do is I want to divide my wrap and turn areas in half. So I had 8 as my divided. I want to divide that in half, and I want to use, say, 4 pegs to go in and make a shoulder strap. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to E-wrap over 4, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to take the next 4 stitches, and you're going to work them back and forth for, say, 10 to 12 inches. And once you've done that, then you're going to place the stitches on a stitch holder, and then you're going to bring the original loops back. So I think I'll do a cord this time. So I'm going to E-wrap 4 over, and then I'm going to E-wrap 4 back. Now you can make it 5 or you can make it 8 and work in between. You know, you can do 4 and 4 if you want really wide straps. You can do 4 and 4 so that you have 4 in between and 4 on the edge. But because these are little bags, I don't really need much of a strap going on. So you're just going to work short rows back and forth for approximately 12 inches. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video and complete your 12 inches of a shoulder strap, and then I will show you how to go from there. Okay, now you can do more or less on a shoulder strap if you so desire, but I'm gonna probably do 12 inches. I could do 14, but it's however long your shoulder straps you think you want. If you don't want real long ones, then don't worry about real long ones. You could even skip this section if you don't want to do it. But yeah, so pause the video, get your one shoulder strap worked up to however many inches you want, and then we will go from there on how to continue the shoulder strap area. And as you can see, it's already developing here. And so you just keep going back and forth until you have 10, 12, 14, however long of shoulder straps you want. I think I went for 12 inches. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I went for 12 inches. So it's entirely up to you. I'm teaching you this as more of a fluid thing, ideas to work from, do your own thing, where you can fudge a little bit and do that kind of. If you have a self-striping, that's always nice. If you have a simple color and you want to do a fancy stitch work after we complete this section, you can when you go to do the body of it. But go ahead, pause the video, get your shoulder strap done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, there's my shoulder strap. Okay, and I measured up when folded in half 7, which is obviously 14 inches. Alright, so I'm just going to knit back. then I'm going to put those stitches onto a stitch holder. If you've got the special stitch markers that you can put them on for the single stitching, you can. So you're going to take the 4 stitches off. Okay, put them on the stitch holder, and then you will need to cut the yarn. So you'll need to cut the yarn, and then what you'll want to do is you'll want to pull that through like that. Okay, and there is your shoulder strap. Now you have 4 empty stitches here, and you're probably asking yourself, okay, what now? Alright, there is your next stitch. Okay, and you have a line that goes to the next one. Alright, you're going to put that up onto the peg. Now, you're going to follow that over to the next one. Put it on the peg. Follow it over to the next one and put it on the peg, and then follow it over and put it on the peg. Alright, and that is what I call putting the original loops back onto the pegs. Alright, and now what you want to do is you want to E-wrap over. Alright, so now what you want to do is you want to put that on the next peg that's supposed to be worked. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, and the next peg that's supposed to be worked is that. So what you want to do is you want to E-wrap over 8. Alright, so you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now you're going to take the next 4 stitches and you're going to work your next shoulder strap exactly the same way. So you're going to knit over, you wrap over 4, back and forth until you have a total of, and I end up doing 14 inches because I'm E-wrapping this. So you just go back and forth until you have the same number of inches that you did on the previous, and you're going to do the same process. Put the stitches on the stitch holder, cut the yarn, pull through, bring the original loops back. Alright, so go ahead, pause the video, complete your shoulder strap. That includes putting it on the stitch holder and pulling back your original loops. Then we will go from there. Alright, so pause the video and complete that much, and as you can see, you would be able to sew up your hole at the bottom. Okay, so pause the video and get that much done, and then we will go from there and I'll show you the bulk, which is the easy part. So once you get past here, then you have all these rows here that you can do from say here to here. It's just straight stockinette, and I'll probably mix up an E-wrap with a knit. Do 1 row of E-wrap, 1 row of knit all the way around. Okay, and then I'm going to do so many rows, and then I will start doing a rib stitching up here, and then I'll do a lace stitching so that I have my drawstring area and then do some more rib stitching and then bind off half of it. And then you have the flap. You can choose to, but before you do the rib stitch, you'll be adding your shoulder straps back in. Okay. And you have a little hanging thing I'll show you how to do too. That's actually worked in. It's not separate. So, yeah. Once you finish the shoulder straps, it's the bulk of it right here. So, pause the video and we'll work from there after you get your shoulder straps done. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished my shoulder straps. And I reattached the yarn just like I did here, and then I E-wrapped my way around. At this point, I'm ready to do the bulk of the bag. Okay, and on this, I'm pretty sure I did 60 rows. And I feel like it's a little too long. Now, granted, this is like the bag you could use for your water bottle or something. And the flap will cover it, you know, keeping your mouthpiece more sanitary. So it will hold a water bottle. But I'm going to do less rows. I'm going to do 50 rows this time rather than 60. Because I want it a little bit more square, particularly with what I'm doing. But if you're doing a flat knit, it is going to be this size, which you can kind of get, I guess, from my hands and everything. But I'm wanting it to be a little bigger, so I'm E-wrapping and using a thicker yarn because this is a DK weight. This is a worsted weight here. So what I'm fixing to do is start doing just regular rounds. You can either E-wrap everything, knit everything. But what I'm probably going to do is do a mix and do 1 row of E-wrap, 1 row of knit. Okay. And I'm going to do that for 50 rows. So what you're going to do is you're going to pause the video and complete 50 rows or however many rows you want, however long you want this bag to be. And then we'll come back and I'll start showing you this area here, which is where your drawstring is, okay? But that's where we attach the, or we go in and we attach our shoulder straps to the upper end, add in our little loop here to be able to hang things, and then we go in and do our drawstring area. So the bulk of this bag is pretty easy. E-wrap, flat knit. If you want to do a fancy stitch, go ahead and do a fancy stitch. This is kind of just a guide on how to go in and do whatever you want, however long you want the bag, because this is the bottom. Okay, so however tall you want the bag, you can go from there. You can get a basic swatch if you want from this area here, and guessing how much rowing you want to do for however many inches or whatever. So go ahead, pause the video, get the bulk of your bag done, and then I will be showing you the next complex area of the bag. Okay, you see I've got the bulk of this done, and I chose to actually only do about 40 rows. I wanted it shorter in size. So now that I've done my 40 rows, it's actually time to add the shoulder straps back in. And I'm going to show you how that is done. Okay, so you're going to need another stitch holder, or you're going to need these little stitch markers that can go up in there easily, so I'm going to use those. So what I want to do is I want to count in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to take the next, put stitch markers on the next 4 stitches, okay, because we're going to need to take these stitches off, because you're going to need to put the straps under, the strap stitches under these stitches. If you don't, it will mess it up completely. Alright, so go ahead and put these stitch markers, or you can put them onto a stitch holder. Alright, so we've got 4. We'll go ahead and take those off. Alright. Now we're going to count over 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to take off the next 4. I'm going to mark that there while I do this. Okay, so you're going to take off the next 4. And there's a reason I'm working the actual stitches into the garment rather than sewing. I find it gives you a more sturdy strap when it's actually worked into the bag rather than sewn in. Okay, adding the last stitch marker. Gonna pull those up and over and out of the way. Okay, now here's what we want to do. We want to pick up the one closest to this side, okay, and we want to stretch it out. We want to make sure that it is not how to put it, it's not twisted. And then what you want to do is you want to take the stitch holder and you want to shove it up through there, making sure that it's not twisted. And you want to add these stitches in their order back to the loom. Okay. Alright, so you've added those stitches back to the loom. You can kind of pull down on it, and then what you want to do is you want to take your stitches that you took off, you want to place them right back onto oops. Okay, right back onto the pegs, and then you can take the stitch markers out. Alright, and you should have 2 stitches on your pegs. Okay. Now, you have to do it this way. You cannot do it any other way. Alright? There is your strap. Alright? It's not twisted or anything. It goes straight up. Okay? Now, you can't come in and try to do it through here, or you can't close up your bottom and the strap won't work. You have to go up through the hole. Alright? I'll show you one more time. Okay, so you find your other strap and you make sure that it's not twisted in any way. Then you're going to gently take it up and shove the stitch holder up through the hole, and then you're going to add the stitches back to the loom. Okay, And once you get them, you can snug that up. And then you're going to take your stitches that you took off and put them back on to the loom. Try to make sure you don't get that last stitch twisted around. In there. There we go. Make sure it's on top. Okay. When you get them all back on there, then you can take the stitch markers out, and then you will be ready to E-wrap or knit the row. Okay. All right. There you go. You have your straps reattached. Okay. So they're nicely attached. Now what you want to do is you want to go in and just E-wrap your way around. And when you get to that section where you added your straps back to the loom, you're going to knit both stitches over like that. Okay. So you're going to work your way around. You can flat knit or E-wrap. I've been mixing the two. I've been E-wrapping a row and knitting a row, and that way it's a little snugger. It's not too open with the E-wrap. So there's my strap. I knit both those together. There you have that. And when I complete this row, I will do 2 rows of a 2x2 ribbing. You're just trying to, I really would suggest a 2x2 ribbing. And I'll explain why. So you may want to try to find a loom that has a 2x2 ribbing, because the way I do my holes for my drawstring is based off of that 2x2 ribbing. Okay. Alright. So at this point, as you can see, we have our straps added back in. And we haven't sewn at the bottom. I'm going to show you that last. So what you want to do now is you want to E-wrap 2 or knit 2, purl 2 all the way around. Alright, so you're going to do a rib stitch all the way around. Alright, so E-wrap or knit 2, purl 2 for 2 rounds, and I'll show you how to do the 3rd round. Okay, pause the video, get that much done, and then I will show you your holes where your drawstring is going to go. Okay, so I'll show you that after you do that. So you can see that we've attached our straps. Now I didn't show you how to do the loophole and that's not difficult to add the loophole if you're wanting it to be able to just hang it on a hook. I'll show you how to do that real quick. It's usually going to be like we have the 8, hold on, let's see how many have I done, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 1, 2, 3, okay, make sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And you want to do something between your 4 and 5th peg on your middle 8 between your straps, okay? So peg 4, what I'll show you how to do if you want to add the strap in is you're going to sit there and you're going to E-wrap chain. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Alright. Then what you want to do is you want to pick that up, stretch it out, and put it onto the next peg. So you're going to decrease it over, toss the bottom loop over. Alright. And then what I like to do is take and get it shoved down in there. And you'll notice you have an empty peg. That's where you want to bring your original stitch back up, which is this right here. You want to bring it back up and put it back onto the peg. Alright? And you have just created a nice hanging loophole. See? And that's how you create that loophole. Alright? And so if you want to do that loophole, what you want to do is you want to find your middle pegs, between your straps, and then you want to find the middle two in that section. And when you do, that's where you do the E-wrap chain 15, move it over, decrease, and then pull the loop back up. So that's how you go about doing that. And that's how you make the hook where you can hang it. Okay? So pause the video, do 2 rows of E-wrap 2 or knit 2 and purl 2. Okay. I've done my rib stitch, and now what I want to do is I want to create my holes to send my drawstring through. So what I want to do is E-wrap 2 or knit 2. Alright, then in my purl section I'm going to take that first stitch and I'm going to decrease it and put it on top of that second stitch. Okay, then I'm going to yarn over, which the working yarn is just laying over that empty peg, and then I'm going to actually purl the 2 stitches together. Alright, and I'm going to show you this again. So because these are knit stitches, you're going to E-wrap 2 or knit 2. You're going to decrease to the right, yarn over, and purl 2 together. One more time. E-wrap 2, decrease to the right, yarn over, and purl 2 together. Alright, pause the video and continue this process all the way around. Okay, so every purl section should have an opening. Alright, so you know every purl section should have an opening. See, every purl section will have an opening. Alright, so pause the video, get that done, and then I'll show you the next step. Alright, okay, I've completed that, and you can kind of see every section I've decreased, which it gives you a hole to weave your drawstring in and out. At this point, you're going to do 3 rows of rib stitch. Okay, so you're going to E-wrap 2, and you're going to purl your yarn over, okay, which makes it open up even more. So E-wrap 2, purl 2 for 3 rows, okay. So pause the video and get the rib stitch done for 3 rows, and then I will show you from there. At this point, we will be completing this here, okay. And this is where I normally suggest that if you just want a regular, drawstring bag with no flap, you'll be able to just bind off the entire top. And if you want the drawstring with the flap, then I will show you how to do that. So that's where you generally just bind off half of it, and then you're going in and you're going to start the flap. And this is where I suggest you decide on a edging that you like that doesn't fold up. I did a garter stitch here. I may do a seed stitch on this next one instead of a garter stitch, but either way, you want something that doesn't curl up on you. Alright, so pause the video, get your 3 rib stitch rows done, and then we will go from there, and I'll show you how to get to a point where you're starting to finish up the bag. Now you may see here that you have these edges coming out, and that's from your actual straps. You're going to weave those in, and then you're going to tighten them down on an existing stitch there, and that way they won't be popping through. So yeah, you just weave those into the middle, and then that's how you hide those. So go ahead, finish that much, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we have finished our rib stitching, and now we're ready to start working on the flap and finish off our front half. Now, I just did a faux pas and needed to refilm because I binded off this half, and you don't want to do that because this is the front half is the first half that you do is actually the part where you need your flap. So, yeah. When you do your flap, you either want to do a seed stitch or a garter stitch, and I'm going to do a garter stitch. So, what I'm going to do is I am going to purl 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. According to this, you'll knit 14. Making sure, yeah. You'll knit 14 and then purl 5. Just divide your loom in half, and whatever edging you want, just make sure the inner section is stockinette, okay? That's what you want to make sure of. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so I purled 5, knitted 14, purled 5, if I recall correctly. Okay, now what you want to do after this is you want to go in and you want to bind off the whole front half. As you can see, there is your front half. So you want to go in and you want to just do a simple bind off all the way around, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and bind off the half the stitches so that you're back at your starting point, okay? And then we're going to finish working up our flap, okay? So go ahead, pause the video, bind off the second half of your stitches, and then we'll go in and be working on the flap. Okay, as you can see, we've binded off half of our stitches. We have the other half to go. All right, so at this point we want to just knit our way across. All right, because we did a purl on the last 5 on the ends, and we're doing a garter stitch, okay? Now we only did 40 rows, so I would say you'll want to do 15 rows for your flap like this. So the knit across and then purl 5, knit 14, purl 5. You'll do that for a total of 15 rows, and then you'll do just straight out garter stitch for 5 rows, and then you'll bind off. Okay, so there's 5, purled 5, knit your way over, then you want to purl 5. Okay, so you want to repeat these last 2 rows until you have 15 rows. Okay, and then we will go from there. So pause the video and complete these last 2 rows we just did for a total of 15 rows, and then we will move on to the last 5 rows and finish up from there. Okay, so you can kind of see what we've got going on here, and there's our drawstringed holes here. Okay, so pause the video, get your 15 rows done, and then we'll do the last 5 rows, and then we'll go from there. We're almost done. The flap is the last thing, so we're almost done. Then it's going in and sewing up your bottom and tucking in your ends and cleaning up, and then you're almost done. So go ahead and pause the video, get your flap done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I've done my 15 rows, and I'm going to make a note that I probably didn't mention. Don't forget to keep alternating back between knitting and e-wrapping. Every other row e-wrap kind of thing. I forgot to mention that, so that you have the stitch evenness for your flap. Okay, at this point I'm to the last 5 rows, which is going to be a garter stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to purl all the way over, and if you're doing the a different size, I've been trying to give you the options on that. What you want to do is you want to do half the rows you did for the bulk of it. So I did 40. You'll want to do 20, which is what we're doing. So whatever you do, you want to do half of what you did for your rows for your flap, okay? And then you just want to make sure that you put an edging around it that doesn't allow it to curl. And that's pretty much how it's done. The flap is. Okay. And that's row 1 on your garter, and then you're going to E-wrap your way back. Alright, that's row 2. I'm going to tell you to pause video and complete 5 rows of garter stitch. You can do more than that if you feel that is necessary, because the garter stitch will sit shorter than your, say, seed stitch. Okay. As I said, we're almost done with this pattern. Okay, there's your 2-row set. Go for 5 rows. Okay, let's go ahead and pause the video and complete your 5 rows of garter, repeating the last 2 rows we just did, and then we'll be ready to bind off the flap. Okay, at this point, after you've done your 5 rows, again, you can do more than that if you want. You'll want to bind off, so you're just going to bind off like normal. If you want a buttonhole, then you're going to need to divide half your stitches in half. Okay, so with my case, it's 24 divided by 2, which is 12. And so what you want to do is you want to bind off 11, and then you want to go in and do an E-wrap chain kind of stunt to create a buttonhole. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, and here's going to be our 12th one. What we're going to do is we're going to E-wrap chain 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to knit the next one, take that one back, toss the bottom loop over and move it over, and then continue your bind off. And that is how you create a buttonhole with your bind off. Let's go ahead and bind it the rest of the way off. At this point, you'll be ready to do your last little bits of everything. You'll be ready to sew up the bottom, tuck in your ends, add your button, and figure out what you want your string to draw the top together with. I'm probably going to do a cord with my crochet hook, because I find it's faster than doing an I-cord, but you can do an I-cord. Okay. Cut it, pull it through. And there is your flap with your buttonhole right there. See it? Alright. So, there is your flap. Goes right there. Okay. Now, what you want to do is get you a string cut, and you want to sew up the bottom. Now, because you did a chain cast on, you should see when you unroll it, there's a chain there, and what you want to do is line your chain up. You want to line your chain up and you want to sew it together. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, it's time to show you how to sew up the bottom edge. Alright, I'm going to find my first chain and I've done a slip knot here, and there's these chains that kind of line it up around that curve, which will kind of gather it. Okay, and then at this point what you want to do is send it through the corresponding chains. Okay, so there is your next chain, and there is your next chain. You send it through. There's your next chain. There's your next chain. And you send it through. You can do that all the way across. Okay. And you're definitely going to want it kind of snug, alright? Because that's the bottom of your bag. So again, you're going to connect the chains one side to the other and snug it up as you go. Okay. So you can kind of see what's going on there. Alright. So sew up your bottom. Then you'll want to go in and tuck your ends in and sew your button on where you want it. Get your drawstring done, and you'll be done. And that is how you go about making a little mini book bag. Now, it doesn't have to be a mini book bag. You can take the system I showed you and make it into a regular size book bag if you so choose. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a mini book bag, but I find that this little mini bag, you can pack in your smaller loom projects that you might be wanting to carry around and that kind of thing. If you're working on something small and you want to travel it around to work on at appointments or whatnot, you can. And doing the chain cast on makes it easier to see how to sew it. Now you can do a Kitchener cast on for this. Normally I do, but I was trying to show a simpler way to do this if you didn't feel comfortable doing a Kitchener. But as you can see, that starts rounding out the bottom to more circular. And then when you kind of get down to the last ones, you can send it through and just kind of drawstring it together. Okay. Then you're going to send that needle through the middle. You can see you have a rounded bottom. See? Alright. At this point, you're basically done. You're going to tuck your ends in here, and you're going to tie this off, and you're going to tuck the ends in down here, and make sure you do your drawstring, and then you can add a button somewhere in here. Okay. And that's how you make a mini book bag.